So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all you beautiful viewers of Intimate Conversation. And we've had a wonderful day here today, and I'm actually speaking to our guest from southern Spain, and it's his not too early morning, but it's his morning, and I'm welcoming Timothy Stuetz. Thank you so much for coming in, Timothy, and welcome.
Oh, thank you so much, Mandy. It's wonderful to be with you and all the listeners.
Lovely. And how's things in Spain? Very much like the rest of the
Oh,
world.
well, I'm quite wonderful. No matter where I am, and pretty much no matter what's going on. So
Oh,
that's the
good on you. Same. We try to be anyway, don't we? Good. Now I will introduce you, Timothy. So Timothy, the Magical Kids Books creator, is one of the most prolific children's authors of all time, having just completed his 86th fairy tale of the heart featuring Bliss Beary Bear. I love that. He is the creator of the Magical Miracle of You, a self-empowerment course for children and families. He also created the Power Animal Frolics, a yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong course for children where they exercise along with 7 power animals in Disney quality costumes. He also runs a quantum energy training academy where he's been certifying graduates to teach multiple forms of quantum energy healing, meditation, yoga, Qigong and Tai Chi for over 35 years. Timothy's programs and services inspire everyone to achieve their full mental, physical, emotional, and heart-filled potential. They are enriched through his having held children and others at birth and death, and coaching people of all ages through a variety of life changes. Using fairy tales, ancient arts, sacred sciences, and everything in between, he empowers people of all ages to develop and use their infinite soul powers to achieve their full potential. Absolutely wonderful stuff, beautiful creations that you've created over your life journey. And oh my goodness, I'm so excited for you to be able to share this with everybody on our end of the scale, wherever that may be too. But how did this journey start for you? Like, how did it open up? Tell us about you and you as a young boy. You must have had a great imagination and been a very creative young boy.
Well, I think I was a creative young boy that chose to shut it all down. I went to military school starting at 4.5 years of age,
Oh wow, yeah.
and yeah, we had a Bible class every Friday, and I sung in the choir, and so we got to practice a lot. And one of the songs I loved the most was "Swing Low, Sweet Chariot," and
Mm-hmm.
every time I sang that, I literally saw angels. I saw chariots, and it was really quite magical.
Mm.
And I also loved singing "Jesus Loves Me."
Yes.
And then one day on the in the playground, I started sharing some of my experiences with my classmates, and it didn't go over too well. I didn't get the response I thought I would get, and I literally made a choice at that moment to shut everything down. I just felt like I wasn't safe being me.
Yeah. Understand that.
And yeah. And I think the reawakening started. I had some pretty wonderful experiences here and there, and like inner knowings that I didn't follow.
Mm-hmm.
Like right before I was to get married, I had this sense that there was another path for me, but I didn't know what that path was.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't willing to walk away from everything that had been set up to follow something that just, you know,
Yeah.
I had no idea what it might be. And then
Yeah, we can still
Right
hear you.
before
Yeah.
we picked the name Melanie, and as soon as we both decided on Melanie, I decided to look it up and see what it meant, and it has its roots in melancholy or darkness. And as soon as I read that, I said, no daughter of mine is going to carry the name related to darkness unless there's light following it. So we chose Dawn as her middle name.
Oh, beautiful.
So there was an inner knowing in me. I wasn't on a spiritual path at the time. And when she was born and they separated her from her mom, she laid over on a table and there was nothing but this orangish, golden, reddish light pouring out of every pore of her being and rising up through the ceiling. And I said to myself, something more important than the birth of my daughter's taking place here. And I had no idea what that was. And it was actually, and then, during her first years, one time when she was 2 years old, I had a pain in my back, and she walked by me and she put a finger right where the pain had been for weeks, and it disappeared.
Wow.
And that's what I said too. Wow. It's like, how did she do that? Not only how did she know where to put the finger, and how did that pain just disappear and never come back? And then when she was about maybe 2.5, 2, we were riding somewhere, and suddenly from the back seat of the car, she started to describe where we were going. And my immediate reaction was, you haven't been there. Where's this coming from? And I racked my brain and remember the only time she had been there was in the womb.
Oh, wow.
Which got me wondering, when do we become conscious? When do we really start to relate to our outer world? So those things were all going on, and my next, and then I think God came looking for me. God saw that my life was not headed the way that it was destined to be.
Yeah.
And I had a minor operation and took a Valium before the operation and took some pain pills the first night. And I fall asleep and I'm having this dream. I'm driving a car with a lady passenger and we're in the mountains and I'm going around a curve and I'm saying I can't control it any longer. As soon as I said that, my eyes opened wide. I'm looking up at the ceiling and it's like I'm in a 1950s, 1960s movie theater where there's light coming out of the projector and you can see that light coming from the projector up on the wall behind and going on the screen. Well, there's light coming out my eyes and playing a movie on my ceiling, and the cars crashed and they're carrying our bodies away. And that was a little bit strange to me, so I closed my eyes, went back to sleep, took a pain pill the next night. I have another dream. This time I opened my eyes out of the dream, and out of the wall across from me is a man with a beard and an orange stocking cap, a knit cap, and orange clothes just coming in and going out of the wall towards me. That was stranger than the first night, so I literally just closed my eyes and I said to myself, I'm a certified public accountant. This does not make sense. And I didn't take any more pain pills. No, but it was 9 months later that I literally had a breakdown. It's like my whole life fell apart. And I laid in bed crying for 3 days. I literally did not get out of that bed. Maybe to go to the bathroom. I didn't eat, I didn't drink. I just remember crying and saying, I've done everything that I thought I should do. I got good grades. I graduated top in my class. I got a great job with an international CPA firm out of college. I've got a marriage. I had a daughter, a house, and it all vanished. And so at the end of the 3 days, I found myself just yelling out to God, saying, I've prayed, now I lay me down to sleep every night since my mother taught me that prayer.
Yes.
And if you exist, I need to find you. Got out of bed shortly after that, stood in the mirror, and I felt Christ behind me saying, I will remake you in my image.
Beautiful.
And yeah, and then I remembered, right away, I remembered when I had left Hawaii the previous year, I was auditing a mortgage banking company, and the president of the escrow company said, if you ever need a place to crash and get your head together, give me a call. I've got a couch. So I gave her a call, and she said, well, I can do you better than a couch. I've got a house now. You can have your own bedroom. And I was on my way to Hawaii within a couple of weeks.
Wow.
And she gave me a book by Dick Sutphen when I arrived, and it's called Past Lives. And I had never heard of anything about past lives. And I sat out in the backyard reading it the next day while she was at work and just started crying. And all of a sudden, like inner remembrances just got triggered. Things that those instances with my daughter, uh, things that a college professor and one of my high school teachers had us write articles on. I remembered those and what was deep within me. And that was the start. From then on, I really couldn't get enough of anything. I just read anything and everything.
Yeah. It's very it is like that. It's very addictive, isn't it, Timothy, when you start, finding out and connecting to yourself deeply. It's like you just want more. There just seems to be this never-ending thirst for more information and more understanding.
Exactly. And it wasn't too long after that I had been planning and actually I'm at a loss for words right now, but I planned a week-long seminar for mortgage bankers, auditors, and attorneys. And I put it on all myself. And at the end of that seminar, the last 2 days, it required so much work that I didn't sleep. So when the seminar was over, I laid down. I had somebody with me, and almost instantly, I just left my body spontaneously. And that was more startling than those two dreams. So I also was able to witness the person that was with me thinking that I was dead and starting to panic. And that just literally put me right back in my body with no effort. I mean, I was back in my body and immediately on a telephone to a psychologist I had seen at the time, and she said, I'll get up and ask Baba what to do. And I'd never heard her talk about Baba in my life, all the times that I was with her. And she called me back 15 minutes later, and without saying anything about who Baba was, she just said, Baba says to eat something sweet and go to sleep. So she called me the next morning about 5 o'clock in the morning and asked me if I wanted to go chant with her. And I asked what chanting was, and she told me, and I said, no, I don't sing for anybody. I don't even sing in the shower. And asked her to meet me after the meeting if she would, after her chant. And she met me, and she brought me a book by Ram Dass. She gave me the name of an astrologer, and she gave me the name of a yoga teacher. So I signed up for some yoga classes. I read the book by Ram Dass, and I made an appointment with the astrologer. And the Ram Dass book, I don't remember exactly which one it was, but at the end of one of the chapters, it had the words, listen to your own truth. And those words just really penetrated my heart. I actually contacted Ram Dass and asked him if I could use those words one day as the title for a book, and had some conversations back and forth with him. I saw the astrologer, and at the end of that first meeting with the astrologer, he gave me some homework and said, when you go to sleep at night, I want you to fill your body with dots of light, starshine, liquid light, and breathe it in from the soles of your feet up through your body and out your palms, back out the soles of your feet, and surround yourself in a cocoon of light.
Mm.
And as he was sharing this with me, he was looking in my eyes and he said, "You have no idea what I'm talking about, do you?" And I said, You got that right. No idea." And he said, "Have you watched Star Trek?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, that's the light. When they beam people aboard, just imagine all that's going into your body." And I did that. I did it every night for 10 nights. And I was into the past. I was taken into the future. I was taken into other realms and given various teachings. And the yoga class started unwinding. I thought I was in really good shape. I had no idea the amount of tension I was carrying in my body at the time. So went to that yoga class, and the yoga teacher followed the same meditation path that the psychologist followed, which was sitting. And at the end of every class, she played a mantra, Om Namah Shivaya. And so after 3 months of yoga, I decided I was feeling comfortable, and I called up my psychologist friend and said, "I'll go do that chant with you." So I went to a morning chant, and that was another shocking experience, and went into this room where people were bowing before a chair with a picture on it, and men sat on one side of the room, women sat on the other side.
Oh.
Incense burning, which I had never smelled before in my life. And she gave me a book and tried to tell me tried to give me some brief instructions on how to read the Sanskrit, which did not work too well. So I really felt the entire time I was screwing up everybody else's morning.
Oh.
But at the end of the chant, there was so much energy vibrating in my body that I started to literally levitate.
Wow.
And I grabbed my fingers into the thick carpet to hold on. And when I got out of that afterwards, I told my psychologist friend, said, "How was that?" And I said, "I feel like I was a kindergartner in 12th grade." And I didn't go anywhere near that place for 3 months. That experience was so profound for me. But that was my introduction to meditation.
Wow.
And I've been meditating every day since, and that was back in 1981.
Wow. Great stuff. And that feeding yourself with light, I just love that, because that's exactly the thing I do. And I have for a very long time, and had some very profound transformations, really, and experiences. It's just really, amazing stuff. Good on you, gosh. And you do Tai Chi, but you do yoga, Tai Chi, and you do Qigong. Is that correct?
I do. After finding meditation, I discovered Reiki, and after I discovered Reiki, I was actually led to Reiki, and then I was led to Tai Chi, and given an internal message to find a Tai Chi teacher, and I ignored that message. And about 6 months later, after getting that message, my legs blew up when I was at a retreat center, from my knees to my toes, and I could barely walk. I had to shuffle. And the doctor there couldn't find anything wrong. And anyway, movement became very precious to me at that point in time. So the minute I got home, I got out a magazine that had lists of different services in it, holistic services, and found a Tai Chi teacher and called him up, made an appointment, and had no money at the time, but she was gracious enough to allow me to take her class and pay her back over time.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and that was I just loved the Tai Chi, and it complemented Reiki really well, and I was looking for new ways to be in the world other than being a certified public accountant.
Yeah.
So I got certified to teach Tai Chi, and over the years learned many forms of Tai Chi and Qigong to share with people.
Beautiful. That's lovely. I did Tai Chi for a little while. I get impatient when I can't just do it fluently, you know, and have to do bit by bit. I'm just not very patient. So I did try for quite a while, but this a teacher who wasn't actually teaching our class, but he taught the instructor that was teaching us, and he came in one day to demonstrate. And honestly, Timothy, I was blown away. We were in rows, you know, and he came in and was standing beside me in the aisle between the two rows, you know, and he was just doing his movements, but his energy field was solid, like honestly solid, like you could not have broken through it. And it pushed us out of our rows as he moved through and down the aisle.
Yeah.
It was just incredible. And he stood beside me for quite a while in his, you know, doing his movements. But that energy, I could not have, you know, putting an elbow and he wouldn't have felt it. It was like you could have got a jackhammer even. You wouldn't have got through it. It was so solid. That really blew me away. But it's like that was something for me. I really was like, I'm going to bring myself into that space, you know, learn how to build my field and yeah, become bulletproof like that, because he was definitely bulletproof.
It's so wonderful that you had that close personal experience of that. There was a documentary, and I forget who did it, but it was PBS, and somebody went to China, and it was on herbs and Qigong. One segment was on Qigong, and they interviewed an American there who was studying with this Qigong master for 2 years, and they showed 9 people pushing up against this Qigong master, trying to move him. Not only couldn't they move him, he then stuck out a finger, and they all went flying.
Yes. Yeah.
But
wow.
This Qigong master had a practice. Another one of his practices that he did was called the Luong patting method, where you pat your bottom with your palms of your hands, then you can use your fist. And if you take it into the martial arts aspect, you actually then graduate to hitting your body with a bamboo stick and then an iron rod. And they did a video of this man demonstrating the method where you pat down all the different organs of the body, the main cavities and the meridians of the body. And watching the video of that man, I knew that if someone was attacking me and he was in front of me, no matter how many people were coming, they wouldn't get to me.
Right. Yes.
That's how much inner power we have and that we can generate by doing various practices. And I've been doing that patting practice every day since I learned it.
Wow.
It's a wonderful way to stimulate the internal organs and all the cells of the body.
There's a Qigong teacher here. I've been really keen to go in and try that, because it's really appealed to me. So yes, you're inspiring me to get in touch with him now and do some classes.
Qigong is so, it does take, in the Western worlds, we're so used to doing things fast and having things right away.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
I taught at senior centers a lot, and the seniors were the ones who would stick with the class because they didn't have anything else to do and they're already kind of slowing down in life.
Yes.
But the classes that I taught to younger people, I'd start with 35 students and I'd end up with 6 by the end of the class because people just couldn't slow down.
Yes, I know. We get frustrated just, wait. Sorry. We get frustrated waiting for an elevator, don't we? Just even that. It's funny. So you have written 86 Is it 86? It is, isn't it? 86?
86 children's stories.
Children's storybooks. You are just fantastic. And honestly, where did Bliss Beary Bears come from? Like, how did that come about?
It came about for me following my heart and opening a chocolate shop.
Oh,
Actually,
really? Oh,
I woke up.
wonderful.
Yeah, I woke up one morning and the first words out of my mouth to my partner were, "If Hershey's can make chocolate kisses, I can make chocolate French kisses." So I set about doing that and ended up opening a chocolate shop, learning how to make chocolate. And it was in that chocolate shop one day that I received a large box. Had not ordered anything.
Mm-hmm.
And the delivery, and I opened up that box and there were 50 little teddy bears looking at me.
Oh.
And being, excuse me, being a CPA and an internal auditor and loving to get to the source of things and reading hard boy books when I was a child, I found out who owned those bears and why I had received a box, which one of their importers had tried to smuggle into the country for his own, and somehow it ended up with me. They left the box of bears with me for finding them and letting them know what was going on. And I carried one of those little teddy bears with me in my car as a passenger. After 2 weeks, I picked it up at a stop sign one day, looked at it, and I said, "Who are you?" And surprising to myself, the little bear said, "I'm Poet Bear."
Oh.
And at the time had been writing for years, love poetry, philosophical poetry.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided I would put all my poetry together in a little book, along with some famous quotes and quotes from the Bible and inspirational things, and called it Tales of the Heart. So I packaged this book and the little bear together. And when it was all together, my mother took one look at it and said, "You blew it. That should have been a children's book."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Mom, there's not one line in there for children, and there's nothing about children." It's like, that's, I do not write anything for children, Mom. And
So you thought.
so I thought,
Yeah.
moms know, and my mother knew me really well on very deep levels.
Mm.
And 6 months later, I found the idea for the first story just popped in my head almost completely. And Poet Bear became Blissberry Bear, who comes from the Great Bear constellation and a blue pearl starship to help children look at things from a different perspective and teach and provide inspiration to parents and children, and just inspire them to live the best life they can. So all the stories are a blend of fantasy and reality, myth and mystery. They weave in poetry with proven principles of child development and values, and they're a lot of fun.
Absolutely. They're fantastic. I mean, I haven't read one of the books. I'm definitely going to buy some for my granddaughter, that is for sure. But you've got a sacred parenting and parent magical child. You've got courses and things that you've got there too. But what really sort of hit me, I think when I read this, it was also that you have a parenting support group that you obviously support.
I do. I've just created a book club for children and parents.
Yeah.
So the book club is either a lifetime membership or monthly membership. And if it's a lifetime membership, people get all of the stories up all at once. So they have a complete library at their disposal.
Wow.
And once a month, I do a live Zoom reading with the children. And then the following month, I asked them to send in their own illustrations of what they saw happening on the pages. So most of my books do not have any illustrations on the inside. They have a beautiful cover illustration,
Mm-hmm.
but I want the children to listen to the story and create their own images in their heads, in their own imaginations, without being influenced by what they're seeing on the page as a
Right.
static representation of maybe one thing.
Yes.
And human Joseph Chilton Pearce, who was one of the most foremost experts on human development, talked about being able to visualize and create images in our head is the highest achievement of human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And that when children create those images, they're actually connecting neural networks and laying the foundation for their entire life. So that's why my stories don't have illustrations on the inside.
Wow.
And so in this book club, the children can create their own illustrations with crayons, colored pencils, fabrics, whatever they want to do to represent what they see or feel happening on a page, imagine happening. And then I'm going to create illustrated by children's books out of all of my books. And the other
Wow.
part of it, one other aspect of that club is for parents. So twice a month, I'll hold live Zoom meetings where parents can gather just for a place to get some peace and calmness, to share what's going on and what's real for them in their lives, if they're having any problems, and let the magic of group energy and intent bring some solutions if they need them.
Beautiful. That's so wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. And I mean, such a great time too to be starting this if just started. Um, yeah, that would be so needed. And I'm sure it will just be such a great success. Like honestly, that feels really great.
Yes, and
Mm,
it's fun to be with the children because they are so creative. So when you're reading stories to children,
yeah.
you never know what they're going to come back with.
Absolutely, and that's so wonderful that you're leaving it up to their own imagination. That's so good, really, really cool. And they're so imaginative. And now, would you say, the gaming, the gaming, would you say that's blocking that imagination? Would do you feel that?
Blocking the imagination and creating lots of little robots.
Yeah,
Not 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 only that, um, young brains do not need to be spending a lot of time in front of electronics. It interferes. There's lots of studies that just shows the interference with brain
yeah,
development and neural development,
yeah.
and again, it's programming children to want things and do things so fast, and it keeps them from being out in nature. It keeps them from
Yes,
playing with each other, and
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
it's not normal.
No, it isn't. It isn't. I mean, we just grew up outside, really, didn't we, in our time? I know I did. It was amazing. I loved
I
it.
did too.
Yeah. And so have really encouraged my children and my grandchildren to do the same, really see the beauty in what's out there around us and that connection that we have with that being nature ourselves. So, it's important. And I think more so today than ever before, because there's so much of this, technology, energy everywhere. And it's interfering now with nature itself, isn't it, in many ways? But again, we can, work around that and with that, can't we? So
Yeah.
yeah, oh my goodness, this is you're just fantastic. And you know I think in the sense of the way this world's going, Timothy, I think your work really and what you're putting out there is definitely a very big part of the new world. I mean, even though it's fitted into this other state that we've been in, and the children themselves will always pick it up, because if they're showing it, of course, and if they're introduced to it, But they will run with this. They'd love this because it's using their imagination, you know. And I think today, you know, we've been talking a wee bit around this with different people in that over this COVID time that we've had, the education system, you know, there's a lot now of parents taking their children out of the mainstream education system and now homeschooling. And what I was seeing, I saw 13 odd years ago, I was given this vision of these children all, and I keep calling it pods. It was like they were all in these little pods, and they had these beautiful hearted, amazing one teacher to these about 7 odd children. And they were being taught outside. They were being taught about outside, about nature, and how to be here with nature, not living on her, but with her. And this energy that came with it was just so heart connected and centered that it stuck with me all these years. Now I'm seeing this happen. I'm seeing this through these big changes that we've just, you know, all been riding through and still are really. This new world that's opening up, and this balance now that's starting to really come into play with this heart connected spaces that people are now sitting in and sharing in you know, creative ways, like these new homeschool children. So it's a great thing. You're just contributing to this in an amazing way. So I'm so excited. I think it's great. Very
Yeah,
cool.
that vision you had is very beautiful. And you know, all of my experience of being around children, and I've taught Reiki classes to children, and
Mm.
one of my most memorable experiences was, you know, it's like I came into Reiki pretty much from being a certified public accountant. So, you know, it wasn't just this overnight switch.
No.
And, you know, my Reiki teacher said, you know, the energy comes down through your head and out through your hands. And so I was in a class with, you know, 4 little kids, and I asked them, where do you think this energy comes from? And this little boy looks at me and says, it comes from your heart.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, I mean that lesson just really hit me right away.
Mm.
I also had the pleasure of teaching Reiki to a school in Santa Fe, New Mexico, of third to sixth graders, and they got to plan their own curriculum as long as what the state required was within it. They got to do anything they wanted.
Right.
So I used to go out to their school once a week because they had people come in from the community and from Los Alamos labs, and just the most incredible people coming in and
Mm.
talk to them. So I used to go just to listen. And I
Mhm.
got to teach them Reiki. And the exchange was, for me teaching them Reiki, every one of them had to either sing me a song or draw me something or make me something.
Oh,
And oh my
I
God,
love
I got the most incredible gifts of songs and poetry and hand carved knives, and you know, beautiful
Wow.
crystals, and everything emitting from their hearts. And two
Oh.
little boys who were about 10 years old shared with me that every Saturday, for as long as they could remember at their young age, since they met, they got together every Saturday, laid down on the floor with the crowns of their head connected, and astral traveled.
Oh, well, cool.
Yeah, very cool. It's like, wow. So
Yes.
it's wonderful to know that there are so many children in this world that really know the gifts they have and are here to take this world to the next level. And we just need to support them and remind them, like we've been reminded of who we are.
That's right. Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's, and to remind their parents of who they are, so that they don't
Yes.
have to go 30 years, 40 years, or 50 years before they start to remember.
That's right. And I've I've got a 15-year-old grandson, but when he was little, before he came in, obviously we were communicating, but when he was 4 years old, around 3, 4, we were talking all the time, him and I, telepathically, we were connecting, and he would be coming up to my home with his mum, and we'd be already saying, "G'day, how are you?" and all of that sort of thing. So when he walked in, he wouldn't actually go, "Hi, Grandma, how are you?" or give me a kiss or anything like that, because we've already done all that. And his mother, on the way out one day, she said to him, "Keita, say goodbye. When you come in, you say hello to Grandma and you say goodbye." And she's telling him off. And I said to her, "Is it okay if Keita just goes out to the car?" She said, "Yeah." And she's looking at me like, "Why?" sort of thing. Anyway, when I explained to her that this is what we are doing, and she, she sort of believed me, but she needed confirmation from him though. So she went out to the car and she said to him, "Buddy, do you talk to Grandma in your head?" And he goes, "Yeah." She goes, "How long have you been doing that?" He said, "Oh no, all the time." And that was us. We don't do it now though. That's the thing. I don't know what happened there, but anyway. But
Well,
yeah, that was really cute.
life and society happened, and what we
Absolutely.
know as children disappears. And
Yes.
what you're sharing with me, my daughter, my great aunt was the babysitter for my daughter while her mom and I were at work during her first, from like 6 months until 2.5 or whenever. And when my great aunt passed away, I really didn't know how to share that with my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea. So I waited like 2, 3 days just looking for what I thought was the most perfect moment to tell her. So
Mm.
one, one night right before bed, she was running all around and everything. I said, "Melanie, please come for a minute. I want to share something with you." So I get done telling her. She looks at me and says, "Daddy, I know. Aunt Ellen, Aunt Ellen came to me right before she left and told me." So it's like
Oh, wow,
I'm
that's
sitting here going through all this stuff for 3 days, wondering how I'm going to tell her, and she already knows.
oh, that's so
Mhm.
beautiful. They do. They just know. They definitely do. And it's wonderful seeing them in their brilliance in that. I just love it. When they're being able to be who they really are, just with parents that are aware and conscious, and yeah, it's really lovely. When I was many years ago now, a fair few years, I put on a children's healing day. Um,
Mm.
and I really didn't know what that was going to be. Honestly, I just had this massive wave of energy that just came through me. I had this picture of things, and it was like, okay, all right, let's do that. And then when I got an hour into it, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, what have I done? But anyway, I did. And I had these big rolls of black plastic that I was plasticating. I was cropping watermelon. And so anyway, got this big rolls of black plastic and made these huge big links and glued them all together to make a big huge cave. I was in a huge big house at that point, and it was a downstairs lounge. So I made this huge big black cave and strung it up to the beams in this Lincoln house and everything. And then I had a friend who came in and she painted, I asked her to paint the inside like a crystal cave. And then I took,
Wow.
I know it came up really, really well. And then I took my salt lamps in and we just, had that sort of glow in there. It was really intimate and cozy. And I had 10 children that came in. 3 of them were ADH, so called. One not medicated, the other 2 were medicated. And when they arrived, I said to them, okay, so today you're not Harry and you're not Ben and you're not Sarah. Today you're going to have a whole different new name. And
Mm.
and I'd found this thing that had given you, so you take the letter of your first name or that sort of thing, and
Uh-huh.
third letter of the last name, and there was these, you know, words that came together, and they'd be like Google Fluffy Bum or whatever the name might be. Well, these children, and we wrote them on a name badge, and they wore that for the day. Well, these kids just got right into that. They were so into that. And then I took them through just little things like, you know, did you know that you've got, you know, you're not just this physical body? And oh yes, you know, they just knew it all. They knew it all. And they were so excited to be reminded and to be able to speak about it like this. And one of the exercises that I took them through, which I won't ever forget it, was write down say 3 things that you want more of, and then it was 3 things that you don't want more of. And you know, every single one of them in the want more of was hugs. They all wanted more hugs. That just melted my heart. I thought, oh my goodness. And you know, these children, and particularly the medicated and unmedicated ADH, their parents came back to me about a week later, 2 weeks later, and said what an extraordinary change in their child, and that they were calmer, they were more loving, and just softer, you know, instead of that, you know, amped up. I had 2 ladies that were helping me, 2 friends, and one, she's a very compassionate woman and she just loves children. And so with the unmedicated child, he was sort of disrupting, you know, there was a lot of disruption, and she just sat with him a lot and just rubbed his back, just calmly, you know, put hands on and just sort of touched, and it just calmed him. He was just, I mean, not that mum could sit there all day like that with him, of course, but that really helped him to just ground, really. And that's the other thing I've found with them in doing my, you know, energy table work with children, is that they're very much out of their body. A lot of them that are in that space where they're really sort of just flying everywhere and really outrageous, loud, you know, over the top kids are often not in their body, right in their body, really anchored in, and they are very scattered. And one mum who I was taken to her home, she thought house clearing, because I do a bit of that sort of thing, just go in and check the energy and see what's going on, if there's disruption. And this little boy, I said to her, look, he needs to, if you could bring him up, you know, I put him on the table and we anchored him into his body. And he was just a completely different child. She said, if I had $1 million, I'd give it to you. She said, it was just such a profound change. And instead of I hate you and all the screamy yelly, it was I love you, mum. And he'd give her hugs, and he was calm and really grounded. So yeah, that makes a big difference.
Oh yeah, the magical environment you created, and you know, if all parents could just take the time to step back and, you know, create those magical moments
Yes.
and
Yeah.
connect with their child and really be present and see where their child is at. And yeah, that's so much of the dysfunction in society, is the wounds that we had as children, which made us disconnect from ourselves,
Absolutely.
literally in order to survive
Yes.
our environments. No matter, you know, the environment for one child may be a piece of cake for them, and it may be so torturous to the other, depending upon their soul and their vibration. And
Mm,
it's so important to tune into each child and, you know, a little bit of love,
yes. Yeah.
being present with them, you know, reading stories to them instead of here's a tablet, go have fun. You know, it's like sit down with the child. And that's the other aspect of me not having pictures inside the book, is for the parent and the child to literally share. You know, what are you seeing on that page? What are you feeling on that page?
Mm,
What did you
yeah.
get from that page? So it actually creates some human interaction, and the the love that's there between us, and the connecting of the hearts. And I want to be in that
Mm.
cave that you created. I mean, that was just
Yeah, I know.
that just sounds magical. And I mean, just, sharing that with parents and getting that out and, creating a little something where, parents, just create this little magical
Mm,
space. And
mm.
I had the great good fortune of one of my Qigong masters was an international singing star, Nancy Z.
Oh,
And I met Nancy when she was in her 70s. And she attributes her long singing career to doing an hour of Qigong every night.
oh, wow.
But she had a grandson, and he was 7 years old, 5 to 7, during the time that I spent with her. Man, she made forts down on the ground and tents, and
Mm.
70 some years old, and she's just down there playing with him like
Yes.
she's 18. And she actually had the voice of an 18-year-old. And I did some energy work on her one day when she hurt her leg. And I had never, of all the people that I had done energy work, she was the only person that I ever touched that felt like her entire body was liquid, that
Wow.
there was no solid structure in there, that all the cells and the bones were even moving. She
Wow.
was just so fluid. And
That's
she designed 12 exercises for me that goes at the end of one of my stories on. It's a two-story book, and at the end of it, there's exercises for children to increase their breathing and reconnect with their bodies. So
great.
your cave is like these exercises she created, It
Yeah.
reminds me of those. It's so beautiful.
No, that's lovely. Wow. So, Timothy, if you could sort of round it up with anything to say to parents or, you know, guardians of children out there, what is it maybe that you would, want to say?
Be totally, completely present. Give up the idea of what life is supposed to be, what your children are supposed to be, what you're supposed to be doing,
Mm,
and just really honor the preciousness and the innocence of that child
mm,
and be right there for them. If
okay.
you don't know the stages of human development, there's a wonderful book by Joseph Chilton Pierce called Magical Parent, Magical Child,
Mm-hmm.
which talks about the different stages of development we go through, and that if we do not get the building blocks in each stage, then we really don't have a foundation for moving forward in life.
Right.
So just if parents can realize that, this is how a child learns from 0 to 2 and 2 to 4 and 4 to 7 and 7 to 12 and 12 to 15, and what they're looking for.
Yes.
One of the most amazing lessons I learned from Joseph was at 15 years old, we are hardwired to find a spiritual teacher. And our parents are usually not that spiritual teacher.
Yeah.
And since we know down into every pore of our being that we're supposed to find a spiritual teacher, and society does not provide that spiritual teacher, then we go looking for that love, that feeling, that ecstasy that
Right.
we're supposed to find inside of us.
Yeah.
We start looking everywhere else for it.
Yes. Yes.
So, as long as children are raised with love, okay, and
Mm,
taught that love is within them and that they're nurtured and it's not scared out of them,
mm,
that's what I would share with parents is nurture that love, let that love expand, and your child will create miracles for themselves
yes.
and all of creation and everybody in the world.
Oh, that's so beautiful and that's so true. It is. And I think the time that we've had over these last couple of years, and particularly in that first big lockdown the world went into, families realized, a lot of the, you know, the fathers that have been out working all their life with their families, and even the mums, you know, they realized they actually didn't want to do that anymore. Many changed it, but, you know, still some carried on, of course, which is their choice. But I think a lot of people, and I kept hearing it everywhere, that they just, you know, realized how much time they hadn't had with their family. You know, that I think was a beautiful thing, if anything, you know, out of it all. It was. There were many beautiful things in that, actually, I found. You know, the world stopped, and you know, this beautiful Papatūānuku, we call her here in New Zealand, she, you know, she just repaired, she healed in a moment with everyone out of the way. You know, it was lovely. Beautiful. Well, Timothy,
Yes,
it's been an absolute... Sorry, you go.
Go ahead. I was just going to share that the opportunity to come back together, slow down, realize what's important in life, regroup, and
Yes.
move back out from the heart, move back out in love, move back out in wisdom, and not just do things because we got in the habit of doing things.
Have to, exactly. Yes, I know. It's been lovely. I think so much has changed, as we all know. There's so much that's changed, and there's so many things that are really, you know, just taking off at the moment that are just going to be so fantastic. So for me, it's an exciting time, and I think we're all feeling this heightened energy, and, you know, this red light, green light, really, where we can just absolutely go for it now. It feels like there's no stopping us. So thank you
It's time to
so
walk
much.
through life every moment.
Yes,
Radiating our heart love.
absolutely. Isn't it great? Well, honestly, Timothy, it's been an absolute honor and pleasure to talk and speak with you today and have a chat with you. It's been really lovely, and I absolutely love your work, as I've said, and I'll put all the links up for everybody to be able to connect with you and grab some of those fantastic books that you've put out. Absolutely amazing. So thank you so much. I honestly appreciate you coming in, and it was just such a pleasure. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, Mandy, and I'm just so happy to be with you and so thankful to be with you and just to spread the love and help reawaken others to the love they are, just like somebody helped us reawaken.
Absolutely, yes. Wonderful. Thank you.